Old man yells at cloud. I think we're coming back. There we are. We're back. Oh, so exciting to see you guys again for another exciting episode of some agency Q&A. And a couple quick announcements. I've had a bunch of questions this week about the Wolf Pack, mostly about how much it costs from those of you guys who are thinking about joining. And it is 15 payments of 1,000. Now we do something on the payment model, something I call pay as you profit. It means payment one is due when you start, and then payment two isn't due until you actually have clients and systems and things like that to pay for it. So it's designed so we kind of like win together. It's also, if you want to just take a discount on that, you can do 12K as a single payment up front. For most folks, we find like if you get 1 to 3 clients out of it, that's all you really need, especially if you keep them and you follow what we talk about to keep them. Then you'll pay for it, in the first 30 days or whatever. And the bigger thing that I think most people are taking is what I call leverage for life, which is kind of like, the big tool between the more beach, less laptop, which is having systems and stuff that do the lifting for you. I see all these burnt out working 80 hours a week trying to maintain clients and delivery and selling your shit, like kind of burnt out agency owners. And when they find out you can do it with leverage and systems, you kind of get your life back. So I think that's really exciting. The qualifier I would say is it's best if you got between 5 and 20 clients now. Those of you folks who are just starting or restarting, I got mad love for you guys, but usually it's not the most ideal fit. It's easier to help like springboard something that's got a little bit of momentum behind it. So that's that. Also, we got our man Dennis Yu coming on, and for those of you guys who use content promotion, there's 6 different ways to get clients. One of those is content. If you guys do any content at all as part of your strategy, like you need to listen to every word of what's said between Dennis and I, because it's honestly, there's very few people in the world where we have a marketing talk and they blow my mind with how deep their understanding of it is. Dennis is just on another level. He really, really is. There's so many gold nuggets in that. It's left me thinking about it like weeks later since we actually recorded. I haven't released it yet, but that's how good it is. So I want you guys to check that out because you'll get so much from it. Also bringing on another legend, just formally booked, the man himself, Jay Abraham, who is, for those of you guys who don't know, he is Tony Robbins' mentor. He is, as well, Damon John from Shark Tank's mentor. Like, he's the OG. I think he's credited with something like $12 billion or something like that in business improvements from his marketing ideas. Like, people who say Jay Abraham is the reason why we made this money. And he's been doing it for like 40 years. So a lot of you guys who are new in internet marketing haven't heard of Jay. Jay's the other guy who every time I talk to, it's just mind expanding. His mind is so fast and he does so much stuff. So we're going to bring him back. We're going to be talking about some recession related things and what you guys can do to win, because we know, sometimes clients, the first thing they look to cut is the marketing campaigns. So I want to show you guys some strategies you can do. No matter how shit it gets, you guys are going to win. And then just more good shit from me. So those are all the announcements I got. I know this is a little longer, but let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. Cole Burness. I know Cole's got the backup mic with me, tag team champs. First up, we got Kevin Kavan. I hope I'm saying that right. It's Kevin with an A. Who's running an ad to get clients for their agency, and what niches are you targeting? If there's a niche at all, my man, then there is money to be made in it. Somebody is succeeding. If there's a niche at all, like there is commerce happening. So I don't always think it's best to ask what niches are making money. What I like to think about it is where within the niche is like the specialty work and services where all the best money is flowing. For example, like, we got one of our members in yoga who thought, yoga is just a bad niche. But yoga people mostly have money, and they also go on like $10,000 retreats. But if you're stuck selling the 1% like low level kind of thing, it can be really hard, and that's true in every niche. So the first thing I look for is specialty service. The second thing is, to me, this is how I believe in running ads. I'm not saying this is the only way to be successful. There's lots of ways to be successful, but I personally just fucking hate losing money on ads. So I like to cheat. I always test my offers organically. meaning like I get in front of real prospects either through a community or in real life or past clients if I got uploaded. I make sure to like really test my offer on real human beings. And once I know it works, then I turn on the paid ads machine. So paid ads really sucks in my experience from going from 0 to 1, but it's the best tool in the world to go from 2 to 10 because you got something that's working and it's just like copy and paste what's working. So that's how like I kind of approach paid ads. And if it sounds like in your case, you're probably just trying to get to 0 to 1. So I would actually skip the paid ads and just figure out a niche, figure out a service and get in front of those people because you'll probably have a better experience with that. And then once you got all that working, then as fast as you possibly can get on the paid ads and scale that baby up. Julian says, I have a copywriting agency that has a lot of experience with writing copy for e-commerce stores. Now I'm looking to do some outreach to e-commerce marketing agencies, but I'm wondering where I can get a list of emails to reach out to. Anyone have any good ideas on where to find them easily? I mean, there are a lot of tools to find lists of people, Julian. Sometimes I'll tell you, people use like, oh, I need a list, I need that before I can start. And I think that can be a crutch where I think would be easier for you if you've actually helped e-commerce stores. And what I would tell you, by the way, just as a little side conversation, is writing copy is a hammer. Nobody wants a hammer. It's a tool. And like if you just show somebody like, this is my tool, they'll be confused for what it does. And so when they're confused, they just don't want to buy it. So chances are what you're doing with that copy is actually far more important. Are you writing product descriptions to help them sell their thing? Are you writing emails to do sales and promos? Like, are you writing blog posts to help their SEO? Like, those are all different things that you can use copy for, right? So we want to be clear on what the outcome is. Don't ever say to anybody, do you need copy? Like, that's like, do you need a hammer? Say, do you need an outcome? Do you need this outcome? And you'll have a much better experience with that. Having said that, Coldlytics is probably the best tool for scrape, and we've tried a whole bunch. I shouldn't say we, like personally, just like members of our community and stuff have tried, and I get a lot of feedback on what works, and people have gotten the best data from Coldlytics. So we've done some trainings on that, but it's just like, I want you guys to have the best, coolest shit. Will says, anyone able to offer some advice via PM if I sent you 2 ads to see if you can find why one may be doing better than another? One is a competitor, another is my friend's business I'm creating ads for. PM me if so, would be really grateful. Well, I'm happy to look at your ads, but I should tell you, there's a thing that most people miss in running ads is that what we're really doing, I know everybody thinks that like only direct response advertising matters and that branding is stupid in our world, but I actually think they work best together. And I'll give you an example of this, how I experienced this in real life for the first time. Is there's a lawyer I know in Jacksonville, Florida. They're 2 brothers. If you're in Jacksonville, you know who the guys I'm talking about are. And they are clients of mine. And they were telling me that they've ran 35 years of like TV ads and billboards in Jacksonville, Florida. And so I said, why don't you take the ads that are working and we'll try them in like a nearby city they're trying to expand to. And what they found is when they started going like 100 miles away and people were no longer under the influence of their advertising, those same ads that have worked for 35 years stopped working. And the biggest reason why is through all those repetitions, they started to build relationships where people knew who they are, and they didn't have the benefit, and only the direct response nature of the ad itself could work. And so that's an example of branding overlapping with direct response stuff. And the reason I say that is because if it sounds like your friend's business is just kind of starting to run ads for the first time, and meaning like they're running in a city and nobody knows who they are or what they do, and it sounds like already that the competitor is probably someone more established than you and has gotten the benefit of some of those repetitions. So that alone may be the difference between the 2 ads, is simply people who know who they are and they don't know who your friend's business are. Having said that, there could be underlying things like they could just have more on-point targeting, or their algorithm could have been running for longer to help dial in their targeting, and now they have lookalike audiences and things like that. There could be underlying stuff like that. And of course, the offers they're making might just be better themselves. Sometimes like little subtle differences. Like I've seen, it sounds like you're in like a contracting space. I've seen people like, if you just have a little bonus to get your free consultation, like a Starbucks gift card, more people will book a consultation or a lead with you. So, Happy to check out your ads, but I just wanted to point out there may be underlying factors that are not so easy to point your finger to, but nonetheless are there and contribute to that. I experienced this as well. Like when we first ran ads to lawyers, there's nothing I said that worked. Over time, I got better at understanding how they think and their kind of biases and beliefs. I'm not saying I got it all figured out, but I got a good picture of it now anyway. Better than I did back then. And so my ads got better, right? Because I wrote better copy. It was more on point. My offers were better. But having said that, at the same time, I benefited from the fact that like 8 months of repetition, they know who you are, and therefore all my ads work because it's a recognized name, and so like that's to say like it's probably more than one thing that's contributing to those ads. Kyle said, "What's to stop a client from dropping you after they see your targeting settings?" None of mine have yet, but they could if it's what I would do if I had a business. Kyle, I'll tell you, man, this is one of those things. Sometimes when you're just starting your business, there's a tendency to be like in a real experience of scarcity. And it sounds like probably you're in that phase. And I think all of us go through it. So like, this is not said as like a judgment or anything like that. Like I've never met somebody who's like obscenely wealthy who starts an agency. We all go through like a trying to get clients kind of hustling a little bit phase. And it's usually not the most fun phase to go through. And so there's a tendency when you're on like the I don't have extra capital to play with phase, you tend to think about like how you can save a penny in every single possible way because it's just driven by necessity. And there's a tendency to think that's what other businesses do as well. And I'll tell you, the more they go up the ladder, the more they value good implementation. And so it's not their targeting they're paying you for. It's not the ads. It's not anything. It's the fact that you can follow the process through to the end and produce the results that they want. That's what they're really paying you for, which is why often when I like do outreach and things like that, I show up as the giver of a cool idea and not the asker for hiring. And the reason I do that is because I know they're always interested in cool ideas that can help them, but what they really want is the implementation. So I give the idea for free, and then when they say, that sounds cool, I want that, then I say, well, where I charge you is to actually get it built. Right? So like the higher you go up the wealth ladder, the more people value. Money is an easy to get more of resource on the higher end of the business spectrum. And therefore, the highest values are time and energy. So anything that they can use for their money to buy back their time and energy is more valuable. So you don't want to project your mentality onto your clients is what I'm saying. Like where you're saying, for me, I got to save every penny. I got to pinch here and there. And that's cool. Like we all go through a phase like that. I can remember having to make decisions about like this software or that one. Maybe I don't need either of them, right? Like maybe I could do all this manually. It's more work, but I need the $37 or whatever, right? So like it happens to all of us. But most of our clients are not like that at all. And just because you would take the info and run, they're not going to. They value somebody who can behind the scenes, pull the strings, make stuff happen, make results. Like when I go to a really big law firm, for example, where there's like 100 lawyers or more, the owner doesn't have time to do 100 fucking jobs. He has to use money. So in the same way, like you think about saving it, he thinks about, I have to use money to make problems go away. And so as much as humanly possible, they want to throw money at things to make them go away. So that's my way of saying, think more about their perspective and where they're coming from, peeps with money, and you'll notice they have no interest in taking your targeting. Precious says, hey guys, I was thinking about something. Can I use a presentation in the Loom video for my cold email LinkedIn outreach? Of course, Precious. The only thing I would caution you is like Loom videos have almost gone viral where they have like a life of their own at this point. Like people love this idea of like not having to do a sales call and you just send a 5-minute video that gets to the fucking point. But I caution you in that understanding Loom videos are a tool and they work in the right sequence. And the place they work best is when somebody has raised their hand in some form and said, I'm interested in your service. And then you say, or I'm curious to know more about what you do. Or yes, I would listen to more. Those kind of things, like I'm interested a little bit. That's the best place to send a video is to go, well, let me show you what we can do with you on this video. But having said that, it is not like a mass market spam tool because like it's the same way like you wouldn't take a driver if like for those of you who play golf, if you're on the green and you're really close to the hole, you wouldn't take out the driver and try and hit the ball 450 yards. You would take out the putter and just tap it. But that doesn't mean it's always the right move to use the putter. Sometimes you're 400 yards away and you got to hit it as far as you can with the driver. So that's my way of saying just make sure you use Loom videos in the right sequence, or you'll not find them useful. So when somebody says I'm curious or I'm interested, so I typically, if I'm reaching out to somebody, which I don't do a ton of anymore, but it's very like high level, high personalized when I do, it'll say like, hey, if you're interested in like this 1 to 3 sentence version of my offer, the short form, then reach out in this way, and I'll just send you a video. So that's where they're best used in sequences. When somebody says, "Okay, I'll hear a little more about that. I'm curious," and we send them in lieu of a sales call to like do the heavy lifting for us. And then, of course, yes, you can use a presentation inside the video. Just make sure you hit those. If you nail those 3 things that I talked about, like the thing will just work. Howard says, Frankie Fihn, finished your 2.0 book. Appreciate the shout out, my friend. Like the new material. Was wondering how we can do a 2-day lead gen test campaign. It takes a few days just to get approved in algo learning. Howard, I think it's important to understand the principle behind it, because then it's not, we don't get hung up in the details. The idea is when most people have an agency offer, and I was guilty of this for like a really long time, is we have an agency offer that is closer to marriage than it is to like a first date. And the thing is, this goes against how real relationships are formed in the real world, right? Like if you meet a pretty girl, or a pretty girl meets a guy, you don't just say like, let's get married and have 18 babies in the first conversation, because you're still feeling each other out. You're not sure you're a good fit. So you might escalate it a little bit and say, let's have a date. And then you might say, have some more dates. And then hey, do you want to go steady? And then after years of going steady, you might get married. And you know, like there's a process you go through. And what most people do is they ask in a way that's marriage right out of the gate. So I used to do this in SEO where it sounded like, hey, you don't know me, but I'm really good at ranking stuff in the Google. So pay me money for the next year. And I would usually be like $1,000 to $2,000 a month back then. And then I'd say, and then wait a year and I'll get you to the number 1 in Google, but I can't guarantee it because Google's kind of crazy, but I'm usually pretty good at it. That was my offer, right? And it's like, if somebody has to pay you $24,000 and wait a long time and it's still not going to work, that's a hard to say yes to thing. The other flip side of that is if you jump right into marriage, you end up in bad marriages. Like that's inevitably an outcome where you have one client who drives you crazy and complains or nitpicks or whatever, and it starts weighing on your psyche and what you're doing, right? Where you feel like you can't move forward because you're not sure if people are going to be happy with your service and that kind of thing. So that's my way of saying, Howard, in your case, we like to try and produce people like a result as quick as possible, but you also need to balance that with like realistically what you're going to do. So if you're running a front end lead generation campaign, front end shit often takes a little bit of time to work. So maybe it might be a more realistic first date to say like, let's work together for 14 days. I can get you a bunch of leads in 14 days kind of thing. Or maybe it's even 30 days. And I've stretched that as long as 90 days for a first date. But you want to think about what's the shortest amount of time I could produce a small but meaningful result in it. And even when you get to the highest levels where like everybody in your niche knows who you are and everybody's buying your shit, it still helps to do this. There's a guy I know who does legal, beyond just personal injury, works in like all of legal, but a little bit in personal injury as well. And they have an offer where they're like an all-in-one. So they do Facebook, Google, and SEO and paid ads, and basically like an all-in-one internet marketing solution that's cheaper than hiring 10 people. And they're doing like $20 million with this service or something like obscenely high like that. And one of the things they do is when clients sign up, they give them 14 days to change their mind. So even still, even though that they're well known and established enough that they can just go straight to marriage, they still put a first date introductory period, which both parties can change their mind in. So I think this is a good practice in general because it'll help you screen for the crazy clients. So just think about what is the smallest period of time. If it takes you more than 2 days, it's not the end of the world. You just don't want to walk up to a stranger and say like, "Hey, will you marry me?" Because it's gonna make your whole business stall out. As if you say, "Hey, like you seem really cool and I like you, let's have a conversation," and then you have a little meaning like qualifying conversation. You say, "Hey, I like you, let's go out on a date. You know, I know this coffee shop. We could just catch up for like 20 minutes next couple of days. What do you think?" Like you're gonna get a lot more yeses. And the funny thing is, if you follow that second approach, you will get married more, like proverbially, to clients because, and you'll have more good quality marriages because if somebody's crazy after 2 dates, like don't give them another date, right? Like, so you'll have an overall better business process that scales better, in my opinion. So I hope that's helpful, my friend. Arsam, I hope I'm saying that right. Hey, Frankie Fihn, how do you run small tests in terms of SEO services? Same kind of principle, Arsam. I want you to think about the principle, not the technique. Which is, instead of asking clients to commit for like this big, long, hairy 12-month ordeal, we want to think about asking clients to commit to something smaller, which is, it's kind of like a prove it scenario. Give me a little bit of time and I'll show you something meaningful in that little bit of time. So you want to think about what the smallest that is for you. I'm not saying this is the answer, but this is an answer. If I was still doing SEO, I would look for one high, like I would probably spend, if I was considering working with a client, what I would do is probably spend like 30 minutes just doing some due diligence on their keywords. And I would find like 1 to maybe 5 really easy to rank keywords that would be really valuable for them. And I would say like, just give me 30 days or 60 days or something, whatever like amount of time I needed to rank it. And I would say, give me 60 days and I'll show you like meaningful traction on these 5 keywords. And if you can do that, what you'll find is those clients will inevitably want to get married. They'll inevitably want to pay you for SEO. I experienced the first time when I realized how easy to sell marriage was. I have a client who has an email list, and we ran a little offer to them. And we ended up selling more of their stuff than they had in 5 years combined. And that was our first date. And part of it was a little trick because I was working with the existing list and the customers and all those things. But we ended up doing a lot in a short period of time. I didn't even have to propose the idea of marriage. They were like, how much is it going to cost to keep you here doing this every week for us, kind of thing. And so that's my point of saying, like, if you engineer a really good first date, you'll end up with all the long-term clients that you need. Like, for real, 80 to 90% closing ratios, and the 10, 20% you don't want, not because they're necessarily like... you couldn't get them results or whatever, but usually because it's like, I don't actually want that client. And then you become the chooser because you get to decide which clients you work with and which ones you don't. And I think that's a better place to be. Jordan says, anyone delegate the sales role early on in the startup phase? How do you find the person? Doesn't seem like there's a lot of people who specialize in digital marketing sales. I can call a lead if I have to, but really just hate it. I'd like to make phone conversations minimal. Maybe that's just a pipe dream. Jordan, you're in the hardest phase to find a salesperson because your offer is trying to go from 0 to 1. And when people try and hire a salesperson to go from 0 to 1, they generally have bad experiences because you're asking the salespeople to cover for the fact that your offer doesn't yet work. The best time to hire a salesperson is when you want to go from like 2 to 10 or 10 to 100 or something like that, because then you'll find like, hey, we have something that's working and we have a process and we just need to train them up and plug them into that process. And then you'll find like you can make a lot of salespeople work, even ones that aren't the greatest salespeople, because they just have to follow what you're doing that's proven to work. So I'm not saying you can't find those diamonds in the rough, but I would have somebody help you first, figure out how to like sell your offer in front of a real audience for your startup, and then you'll be able to find a lot of salespeople, and there'll be a lot of them that'll work for you. So I hope that's helpful to you, brother. And if you're interested in getting a little feedback on your offer, feel free to send that my way privately. Lewis says, how does everyone communicate with clients? This is a deep, deep thing that I have with communicating with clients. I believe in being proactive and playing offense instead of defense. So I believe most agencies play defense. And what defense is to me is like, you don't say anything to the client for 30 days. At the end of the month, you send them a report. Half the time, they don't understand the fucking report anyway. That is playing defense. Playing offense is like, I'm going to keep you informed even before you ask. And therefore, there's nothing to really ask me about. And so one of those things for me is like how we like to do it is every second Friday, I like to send a Loom video to all our clients. And I can just give them like a little 2-3 minute update. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's how it's going. Here's what you can expect next. And that's the format of every single video. So we say, here's what we're doing for you. So they understand what we're actually doing. Then we explain, here's why we're doing that. So they get a clear picture of what we're doing. And I show them, here's how it's going, and that's like a summary of whatever your reports would tell. But I explain it to them in plain English. and then we say, here's what you can expect next, and we just reset expectations, which I think is it's a pretty proven format to do it. So if you guys want to borrow that, feel free to borrow that, because that's what used to happen to me. Is when clients would have questions and I was playing defense, it would interrupt my entire schedule. So it doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you have like 100 fucking clients and one wants a meeting Monday morning and one wants to call you Monday evening and another one wants you to email them right away Tuesday afternoon, another one can only call you on Sunday, suddenly your whole fucking day is just filled with clients requesting your time constantly. And when you reverse that paradigm and play offense, I can manage all my client communications in like 2 hours on a Friday and go and just like literally go one after the other and then send them all out. And then it's like very leveraged and efficient. And we tell them like that's just how we do communication. By the way, little aside on that, most of how you set expectations determines how your clients will behave. We just got a little Heidi B to bring a juice. Thank you, Heidi B. Nothing like cutie green. We got some green juice. We got a new juicer and we've been making leafy green vegetables and stuff like that. So let me just go back to the question because I lost my train of thought a little bit. Oh, how do you communicate with clients? Yeah. So I believe in like play offense. Whatever you do, play offense. Inform them before they ask. And what you'll find is most clients trust you more and leave you alone more. And a lot of times you just got to make a big deal out of all the regular things. And the way I found the best to do that, like I mentioned, a little 2-minute video update. Or you can do the same thing in written form, like if you're a written person. Or if you're an audio person, you can tell them like, hey, I'm going to send you a message, whatever, like a voice recording. So it's all of those work. It's the principles, like inform them before they ask and let them know what you're doing, why you're doing it, how it's going, for real how it's going, like the things you're stuck on, the things you're figuring out, and what to expect next. And then we got Josh. What's been the most valuable book you've read this year? To be honest, like I don't know if any of you guys go through this, but I'm like a dude who I go through book binging phases, and then I go through phases where I read very, very little and just don't feel the need to. And I think for me, the biggest thing is I try and implement at least one big idea from every book. And so to me, the limiting factor is not how many books I can read. It's more like how many good ideas can I implement from the books. So having said that, I don't know if it's like necessarily the best book for everybody, but I found the principles in this book, The Go-Giver, to probably be the best I've read this year. And they're just basic, like timeless principles for anyone out there who's looking to like, you know, produce value in the world and have income to show for it and have a cool life with their family. I think it's a smarter way of just like thinking about it, because most people get into business thinking what they can get, not what they can give. And I think when you reverse that paradigm and you think more about like, who do I want to give to? What do I want to give to them? And those kind of things, you come up with just like an all-around better business out of it, because it's customer driven instead of self-driven. I see this like all the time. Most businesses, like my hometown's a good example of this. I've mentioned this before, but there's like a shit ton of auto body shops. And as best I can tell, the biggest reason people start an auto body shop is because they just don't want to work for someone else. And so they figure it's easier to have their own job. But they don't start it because the market needs another auto body shop, right? Like the market does not need it. There's enough of those dudes. And so it's like it's really like hyper competitive, and they don't realize this because the reason they started the business is for themselves, because they didn't want to do something, instead of looking at the market and going, what does the market need? What do people need? How can I give and contribute? And if you start with that second question, like everything that comes later in that business will be easier and better, because instead of thinking about what's good for you, you're thinking about what's good for the consumer. And if you think about like really any business, and the reason people don't do this is because it's a lot of research up front. Like I actually think the first move in any niche is to research, to figure out like, who are these people? What do they buy? What do they like? What do they not like? What are they stuck on? You know, what's important to them? Instead of going into it with your preconceived idea of saying, I need to sell this, you look at it and go, where's the market underserved here? A perfect example of that, there's a guy in my hometown who started up a Volkswagen auto body shop. And it turns out, I guess Volkswagens have like special parts. And if you're a North American like mechanic, like you work in Canada or America, it's not so easy to like fix these cars. So they'll, you know, like when they have the specialty business, they'll refer it out. So like we would go to the auto body shop. I know this because we had a Volkswagen, and they would say, "Oh, we don't fix that. Here, go to the Volkswagen guy." And so he was the one guy who was driven by the market need, And because he was driven by the market need, he was so busy, as were the rest of them, all got to fight with each other, compete on price. But because they don't he serves an underserved area of the market. Like literally his business is downhill. He's getting referrals more than he could ever handle in his life. So I think it's a better way to do business is to really think about like what are the market's needs before you think about your own needs. And it's totally okay to think about your own needs, by the way. Like you may want to be the reason you may have built your business is because you want to become a fucking millionaire, and that's totally fucking cool. And I think that's an awesome goal. Just don't put the millionaire goal before the what are we contributing to the market goal. If you do that in the reverse order that most people do it, instead of thinking about like me and my monetary needs, you start thinking about the market and their needs, then you'll just build a better business and it's fucking cooler. So I did do a training on the YouTube channel for those of you guys who are interested in actually how to do this research. There's a training on the YouTube channel. It's called, the YouTube channel is called Beyond Agency Profits. And if you search for the title, Unfair Sales Advantage, you'll find the video. And it really is an unfair sales advantage because you're getting the market to tell you what they want in their own words and then parroting their own words back to them. It's how you write the best copy of your life. Like the Volkswagen guy says, hey, do you need your Volkswagen fixed because it's all specialty parts and blah, blah, blah. And if the answer to that question is yes, he's going to be crazy, crazy busy without even trying. So that's my way of saying, think about the market needs first. You'll have a better business. I think that's it, what we got for questions. For those of you guys who missed the intro and, just a couple little quick announcements. I mentioned, I've had some people asking me about the Wolfpack, which, by the way, is very, very close to full, if not already. I think we do have a couple of spots, but I'm not 100% positive. The investment for that is 15 payments of $1,000, and I set it up specifically at $1,000 so that you only have to. We have something called the pay as you profit, which means payment 1 is $1,000, and payment 2 is not due until you've actually gotten some results with the program, and then it's coming out of your profits. Or for those of you guys who just have it and want to save it up front, you can do $12K up front. For most folks, we're finding like get 1 to 3 clients and you keep them. Like you'll have made your investment back in month 1. But the more important thing I think is, like I've talked about it, is all the leverage you get out of it. Like I just find most folks are working way too hard, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, trying to keep up with client campaigns, messaging people, hustling to get clients, outreach, employees, all those things. And we show you how to get leverage on all that. So like your systems, your processes, your people do the heavy lifting and not you. And so, we got lots of like swipe and deploy SOPs and things like that to make your life easier. And I will say it's for those of you guys, the ones who will benefit from this the most are those of you guys who got between 5 and 20 clients. There can be exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, I find if you got a little bit of traction, it's better than if you're, just trying to get off the runway. It's better if you're flying and the flight is rocky than it is to try and get the plane off the ground. We do have some like trainings and stuff that'll help you guys who are in those situations or who pass that and are growing management teams and things like that. So that's announcement 1. Announcement number 2, our man Dennis Yu is coming on this week. I actually pre-recorded this like 2 weeks ago, and I've been thinking about what Dennis said so deeply because for those of you guys who use content as promoting your agency, like for real, there isn't a smarter mind to listen to. Like this guy is just so OG with his understanding of how to promote and attract people. We talked about like something, the heart surgeon kind of agency. If you think about a heart surgeon, people don't come to a heart surgeon and like he begs them for business. On the contrary, he gets the best people referred to him, and they come to him saying, I know it's going to cost a lot to work with you. That's a heart surgeon agency. Most people are running what I call like a door-to-door salesperson agency. Like when you think about how people used to do outreach, they would knock on a door and say, hello, sir, would you be interested in 30 seconds to talk about buying one of these? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I understand it's like, people got to do what they got to do to get business off the ground. But I think the heart surgeon agency is a lot better because the door-to-door salesperson like fights uphill, has to message tons of people. The heart surgeon, all of it comes to them, and it's a much more pull kind of method. And I think if you pull the clients in, there's a very different frame they come in the door with, and you experience clients in a very, very like the heart surgeon has cooler clients than the door-to-door knocker. Let's just say it that way. So Dennis Yu is going to talk about that. Bringing on the legendary Jay Abraham as of now. We're scheduled for next Tuesday. I'll release it, I don't know, a few days later. But we're going to be talking about all things recession, especially because for those of you guys who haven't been in an agency through a recession, my first one was built, often the first thing to go in a lot of niches is the advertising budget. And that can be a little scary if you guys are all out there running advertising budgets for clients. So we're going to talk about like different creative things you can do so you still win, your clients still win. And a lot of it is just changing, just getting creative and being more strategic than everybody else is. Like a lot of times you can set up a deal where you're not paid on step one, but you get paid on step 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can make a lot more money than if you need it all up front, for example. Like there's just one of the things Jay's kind of shown me, and then there'll be more good shit coming from yours truly. I've been talking about this for a few weeks. I've been meaning to record a training, but it's been a little wild with 3 kids and all that, and I've just been a little, I think last 2 weeks been a little more tired than normal, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to get some cool shit out for you guys. I want to show you guys how you can reverse engineer the buyers and do this so you get like really, really dirt cheap advertisements. I like to spend big money in little teeny tiny buyer audiences more than I like to spend big money trying to educate the whole market about who I am. I found that to be a much more effective way of running ads. You can run like really cheap ads. Some of the ads we're getting right now are like 4-cent people. It's kind of unbelievable that you can actually in this day and age get 4-cent people. So I'll be showing you guys some of that stuff. It's hard to lose when you're getting buyers to see your offer at 4 cents, even if you're terrible and you only convert 1 in 1,000, right? Still $400 for signing a client at most of your guys' prices. That works. So anyway, those are all the good things that I just want to give you guys a shout out that are in the pipeline. Appreciate you guys. It's really, really cool seeing you guys. Better questions, better offers. You guys are just running smarter businesses as the time passes. That's the most exciting thing for me, and I think the biggest rewards for that are the things you get to do behind the scenes because you have a well-run, not like hair on fire kind of business. And when you have that, like the owner of Starbucks isn't stressing out about every coffee getting made each morning, and yet they sell gajillions of them. So we want to have those kind of businesses that like run really well oiled and strong, and you guys are building those kind of things. So excited to see what's next. And that's all I got for you guys this week. May the force be with you.